Is there going to be a housing market crash, or is it just BS? Well, we're going to talk about it. Stay tuned. So thanks so much for tuning in. Catherine Newman here, local real estate agent in the Manatee and Sarasota County markets here in Florida, specifically in my great hometown of Parrish, Florida. And I've got my Yeti here full of water because today I want to make sure we talk about, well, what we're seeing in the headlines all the time. Is the market crashing? Is it not crashing? What do you think about it? Because you're seeing it too, like I am, every time I turn my laptop on, when I turn the news on, whether it's morning, noon, or night. Someone's saying something about the market. So it's very important that we talk about this, and maybe you've asked that same question too. We're going to discuss it today as it relates to the Great Recession of 2008 to 2012. But before we do that, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to this YouTube channel so I can keep this information coming to you. There's been a lot of concern lately, and rightly so. The housing market is headed for a crash.
You're tearing me apart! You say one thing, he says another, and everybody changes back again!
And given some of the affordability challenges in the housing market, and they're real people, as you know, along with all of the talk concerning a recession and all of the different increases in interest rates, it's easy enough to understand why the worry about a market crash is always on the top of our minds. And because most of us do remember the Great Recession years of 2008 to 2012, it's totally understandable that people are worried about the housing market because, well, they're hearing and reading conflicting news reports on a daily basis. You've seen the reports just like I have, reports that are saying the housing market is about to crash. The crash is coming. Maybe they're seeing things that are saying the market now is rebounding, or it's not going to be a crash, it's going to be a correction. And when you have all of these voices that are in our faces with this conflicting information every day, that information alone can trigger the past trauma that many of us experienced during the Great Recession. And of course, now we're all concerned and we're wondering. Buyers are wondering, should we buy now or wait it out? Should we wait till interest rates drop? Or sellers are thinking, should we sell now or should we wait until it's a better time to sell? Should I stay or should I go? Now, personally, I don't think that interest rates are going to fall anywhere near what we saw during, leading up to the pandemic and during. I don't think that those 2 and 3% interest rates, or even 4%, I just don't think we're going to see it again in our lifetime. That's just my personal belief. You believe what you want to believe. I also think that we're going to see the interest rate continue to rise because we've already been promised by Mr. Powell himself that they're going to keep going up this year. And I think they're going to get a little over 7% where they are. However, remember, we're headed into an election year. You know how they like to do during an election year. We might see them come down a little bit in the new year, just not to tick people off enough to not want to get out and vote. But I still think those interest rates are only going to be in the low 6s to mid 6s. Some people are saying maybe 5.5. I don't think that's going to happen. I would love to see that it does happen, but I'm just not thinking that it will.
Well, there is the possibility that you've gone right out of your mind.
But let's pretend for just one moment, hypothetically, that the rates did lower in 2024 to 5.5%. That'd be awesome. However, think about it this way. All of the people that are on the fence right now, they're ready to buy, they want to buy. They're going to jump back into the market when those rates drop. You would too, I would, that's smart. They're going to get in on that lower interest rate as quickly as they can. And what does that do to prices? Well, we're going to talk about that, but for the most part, you know, prices are going to continue to go up. If you have that many people coming to the market that quickly, you still have low inventory levels, well, those prices are going to continue to go higher. So is it going to cost you more in the long run to wait for a supposed 5.5% interest rate when the price is going to be $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 more in a year from now? Nobody knows, so we'll have to wait it out together. So for now, let's break down the current market's national data so that we can clearly show why and how that today's market is very, very different than it was before the housing crash in 2008. Because the market that we're in right now, folks, is not a repeat of what happened back then, and here's why. So how is it different from 2008 to what we're facing now? Well, it's harder to get a loan now. It was much easier, believe it or not, to get a home loan during the lead up to the 2008 housing crisis, much harder than it is today. Back then, banks had different lending standards, which made it easy for just about anyone to qualify for a home loan or maybe even to refinance an existing loan. People that should have never qualified to have a mortgage back then, probably due to lower credit scores, maybe they had higher debt-to-income ratios. Some of them had little or no savings or assets at all, and some of them even had really difficult job security issues. Well, they were qualifying for what they called back then creative financing options. And as a result, as you know, lending institutions were taking on a lot greater risk in both the person applying for the mortgage and the product or the mortgage product that was being offered. And that led to mass defaults, foreclosures, and the falling prices. Things are different today because purchasers are facing increasingly higher standards from mortgage companies.
I knew exactly what to do, but in a much more real sense, I had no idea what to do.
So this graph here uses data from the Mortgage Bankers Association, and it's going to show the difference between the lending standards and the lending practices leading up to the 2008 collapse. And you'll see that the higher the number is, the easier it was to get approved for a loan. And the lower the number is, like it is right now, the harder it is to get approved for a mortgage.
The other reason it's so different from back then is that unemployment recovered faster this time. Now, while the pandemic did cause an unemployment to spike over the last couple of years, the jobless rate has already recovered back to pre-pandemic levels. Things were different during the Great Recession because a large number of people stayed unemployed for a much longer period of time.
Here's how the quick job recovery this time around is helping the current housing market, because so many people are employed today. That means there's less risk of homeowners facing hardships and, of course, defaulting on their loans. This is helping put today's housing market on stronger footing and is reducing the risk of more foreclosures coming onto the market.
And we're going to discuss it right now. The third reason why it's so different from back then is there's fewer homes for sale today. Like I said, during the housing crisis of 2008 to 2012, there were too many houses on the market for sale. And of course, you know, like I do, many of them were short sales and foreclosures, and that is what caused prices to fall dramatically. Today, there's a shortage of inventory available overall nationwide, primarily due to the years of the underbuilding of homes. Why was there an undersupply of underbuilding of homes? Well, because a lot of the builders took a really big direct hit during the Great Recession, and they stopped building altogether, and some of them for several years. I know here in Manatee and Sarasota County, as well as, you know, across the country, New home communities were left desolate, you know, like a scene out of the apocalypse or something. I remember the first time that we came out here to look for a house in 2013, that we were driving around looking at communities and that sort of thing. And a lot of communities here in Parrish, and I know it happened in Lakewood Ranch and Bradenton and Sarasota and Northport, the whole state, well, the whole country, right? So many communities were just left desolate. The builders pulled out. A lot of builders went under. They're not building anymore. Some of them regrouped and they have new names now or whatever. But I remember driving in a community across from where we live now. And at the time, there were 5 houses. They had started this community. There were 5 houses in that community that were finished, and people were living there. The rest, and they had a pool. They had a community pool. The rest of the community was, oh my goodness, it was like a scene out of The Walking Dead. Like I literally expected zombies to walk around or something. It was so sad because you've got 5 houses in the midst of all of this overgrown growth, yards, trees, everything's out of control. It looked terrible.
Here's a graph right here that's showing data that's come from the National Association of Realtors and also the Federal Reserve. And it's going to show how the month supply of homes available now compares to the crash. So today, unsold inventory sits at, now we're talking nationally, just about a 2.6 months worth of supply. In Manatee and Sarasota County, we're right at about an average of 3 months worth of supply. So there just isn't enough inventory on the market for home prices to come crashing down like they did in 2008.
A big reason why it's so different now than it was back then, our equity levels are near record highs right now, and they weren't then. Low inventory of homes for sale has helped keep the upward pressure on the home prices where we live here and in most of the country. And of course, the pandemic did that as well. As a result, homeowners today have near record amounts of equity.
And that equity is putting them in a much stronger position compared to the Great Recession. There's a gal named Molly Bozel. She's a principal economist at CoreLogic. She says that, quote, most homeowners are well positioned to weather a shallow recession. Now, time will tell if it's shallow or not, but she says more than a decade of home price increases has given homeowners record amounts of equity, which protects them from foreclosure should they fall behind on their mortgage payments.
So listen, I get it. Everybody has their own take on whether they think the housing market is going to crash. I can say in Manatee and Sarasota counties that we still have really low inventory. I believe we're still at 3 months and under 3 months for both counties. And we are seeing a little decline in prices, which is a nice thing. That's why we believe that the prices are rebounding, coming back to normal pre-pandemic levels. So you're not going to see people offering $30, $40, $50, $60, $75, $100,000 over asking price. And I hope if you're a seller that you realize you might not make as much as your neighbor did a year ago or a year and a half ago because the market has changed. And even though there are still low inventory levels and it still is a seller's market, you still have to price your home according to the market we're in now, not the market that was back then. So you see from all of this data that this market that we're in right now is nothing like what happened leading up and into the Great Recession of 2008 and 2012. It's just not at all the same. But you know, as well as I know, time will tell. Time is going to tell us what happens, and we're going to sit it out and wait and see what happens. And I will say this, you should never feel pressured to either sell your home or to buy a home, right? If it's the right time for you and you've done your due diligence. And what I mean by that is stop listening to everything that you read and everything that you see, even this. I try to give as much data to support what I'm saying to you, and I've given you data to prove that this is nothing like 2008, 2012. However, you still have to feel right in your own gut and make the decision that's best for your family. If you're in the position of buying right now and you're waiting for the interest rates to drop dramatically, I really don't think you're going to see it, but you have to feel comfortable about that. And I hope that you're doing your research and looking at all kinds of data, not just voices of what people are saying, even me, but I mean, you're actually looking at some of the data coming out of the market, whether it's in your home state or whether you're looking to move to a market like Florida and you're looking at what's going on here. But make sure you're doing your own research to give yourself peace of mind so that when you make a move, or if you make a move, you are solid in your decision and you feel good moving forward. And some of you are also thinking that I better do something now because I know the prices are going to continue to go up and I don't want to miss out on that. And that's, again, that's a decision that you have to make. And of course, it makes sense that a lot of home sellers that would like to sell, maybe they want to downsize, maybe they want to move up and get a little more square footage. They're not making those moves right now. Number one, there's not enough inventory. They're really not finding what they want. And why would they trade their 3 or 4% interest rate, some people even lower than 3%, why would they trade that interest rate for 7 or 8? So they're staying put, and that's okay too. But if you have to sell right now, maybe a job is taking you somewhere, or maybe you need to be closer to family or friends, or whatever the reason is, you need to move, then you definitely need to make sure you're looking at the data for your local area, whether you're here in Florida or you're in another state, and price your home according to the most recent data. Now, I always look at 6 months, but I really look at 3 months because it's been so volatile over the last 2-3 years, even leading up to the pandemic, that it's really smart to look at what happened, not just necessarily 6 months ago, because 6 months ago right here in Manatee County is way different than what's happened the last 3 months. So make sure you're working with a professional that's bringing you data that you can look at and you can see a trend, or you can make that decision to see if it's the best time for you to go and what the pricing of your house needs to be. If I can help answer any questions for you, I'm so happy to do so. You can reach out to me, you can leave comments, I always give my phone number, my email address, so please reach out if you have any questions. Or if you want to know more about these areas, you're that crazy, you're ready to do something, I'd love to show you what's around in these areas if this is an option for you. It's a beautiful area to be. I love living here. I moved here from Colorado, as you know, and we love it here, so it might be something that's good for you too. And if you want to stay up to date on all the stuff going on in these local markets, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, and please like this video so I know I can keep putting out content that's helpful to you. I'm Catherine Newman. I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good one.